Yeah. This is the Legacy League. Tell me what will your legacy be? Yeah.
All right, welcome back, everybody. This is going to be the Week 6 recap. It's not technically Week 6. It's, I don't even know, Week 10, 11 right now. But because we had that snow week, this one got bumped back to the back of the schedule. So we're going to recap that, those matchups that were set for that week. And those matchups were all right. You know, I think the closest game was 9 points. So a lot of blowouts, but it shaped the playoffs, which is something to talk about. A lot of seeding was still up in the air up until this week. And we got a lot to talk about for next week. We got 2 games because 2 teams got the bye. Yeah, some really good matchups for next week. So we're going to talk about that. Well, we're not. I am. It's just me this week, if you can tell. I'm going to be running the show solo, so sorry if you can't get... if you're tired of me, you got to stick with me just for this week. No one else going to run the show with me. But yeah, without further ado, we'll go into that first matchup. And that one was going to be our closest matchup, which is We Got Us versus OTM. And this was the battle of the 3rd seed and the 2nd seed. So this was the game that had a lot riding on it, and it was the closest game in that 10 p.m. slot, so everyone got to watch it. So it was game of the week, is what we were saying, and it definitely was. We Got Us took this one 86-77. It kind of went away in that 4th quarter, but it was pretty close up until that. You know, Shaq and Shy were kind of firing off on offense, both sides, kind of keeping this game close. But this game decided that Glock Boys got bumped up to the 2nd seed. So now they get the bye week. And then OTM gets bumped down to the 4th seed. We Got Us gets the 3rd seed. It was so We Got Us now playing the lowest seed. That's how this matchup was kind of, you know, just what it was deciding was those seedings. So big game for We Got Us. You know, whether they wanted to play this team or that team was kind of up to them. You know, I'm glad they didn't throw the game. I didn't think anybody was going to throw a game based off who they wanted to play. But arguably, OTM got maybe an easier matchup, I think, by losing. We'll talk about it later. But for We Got Us, Shy Hicks led the way, 29 points. Big game from him. I mean, I've been saying it all season. He's kind of their leader. He's not as flashy as Derek when it comes to dunking and defense. You know, he's not as loud and aggressive as Jamari, but his leadership is shown through the way he plays and the way he talks to his team on the bench and on the court. You hear him making calls and getting his team ready during between quarters and timeouts, and he leads the way in scoring sometimes, like tonight, 29 points. A name we haven't really brought up in the scoring aspect of it, Cade Ryan, 20 points this week and 15 rebounds, a huge double-double from him in a huge game. They needed that from him when OTM might be one of the smaller teams. He stepped up and kind of made that difference. He definitely showed out this game. I've been telling him all season that I know he can throw down some monster dunks, and he definitely did. He threw down some dunks. He got fouled a lot going up for some dunks that would have easily been in the top 5 plays of the season. I mean, they were crazy. He just gets up there and his length on his arms is just crazy, so it makes the dunks look that more impressive. But yeah, you know, Derek doing his thing as well. No Jamari this week, which leads usually for us to say Derek's got to step up, but Kubi and Chai did all the work this week. Not all the work, sorry, excuse me, did most of the work when it came to the scoring aspect of it. Yeah, and for OTM, you already know what I'm going to say. Shaq Murray, 31 points, 10 rebounds, double-double from him. Usually don't see too many rebounds from him, being one of the smaller guys on his team, but the ball came his way this game. James Fleming, usually their second leading scorer, was their second leading scorer this week, 17 points. I mean, he's just a great shooter when he gets going, and he gets hot. It's kind of hard for him to miss. Yeah, I think this game came down to the 3-point shooting. I mean, We Got Us shot 42% from 3 versus OTM's 34%. Rebounding, assists, steals were relatively the same. It was just that shooting percentage for We Got Us that kind of led the way, and I think that's really what was the difference. I said last week you got to prevent Shaq from getting his 30 because he's still going to get his 20 no matter what. But he got his 30 and it still wasn't enough, even when he had a secondary shooter scoring as well with James Fleming. It just wasn't enough for Shy. I mean, Shy was just hitting crazy shots, crazy step backs. There was nothing they really could do. They were finding mismatches very well on offense, calling them out. Knowing who to attack on defense and who to let up on offense. Kubi was just such a great defender. Whenever he actually went on to Shaq, I thought he played him very well. We see QB usually go on to the bigger guys. Like we saw that Quandale matchup last week, which was a very good one that he did a really good job with. But he actually can guard the guards pretty well too, as he showed with Shaq. Shaq didn't have the greatest shooting night, and I think that is due to as much as Kubi could do. Usually Shaq's shots are off a dribble and not much contest can come out of it, but when there wasn't contest, it was usually Kubi's arm up, and you got to give props to that. Yeah, it kind of was like back and forth until that fourth quarter. We guys kind of went on a run. Shy hit a few shots, and they kind of got some fast breaks that was just like 1 versus 3, and that kind of crushes a team's momentum. And I think that's kind of what OTM fell apart, was that momentum in that fourth quarter, and the We Got Us kind of offensive spring they had led to that 9-point win. Yeah, we'll talk about what OTM can do differently to get a win in the playoffs, and what We Got Us has to continue to do to get a win in the playoffs. So I'll talk about that later. Not much more else to be said from this one. Yeah, we'll move on to our next game. Let me just fix my notes here. We got, for our next game, Who's Next versus Gang Green. And this one was honestly closer than I thought it would be. That being said, it was a 16-point win for Who's Next, which pushes them to 8-0, a perfect undefeated season. And Gang Green losing this one puts them second to last in the seeding, where they'll face OTM next week. We'll start with Gang Green. For Gang Green, Josh Monty Castro led the way, 26 points. Latrell Wilson, 12 points. I mean, little has been said about Latrell in the post-game shows, but I do want to give his credit. I think he plays offense very well off the ball. I want to give credit to that, because his putbacks are really good, and he times them very well. And he might not be scoring 20 a night, but those 10, 12 points he is getting are hard earned, and he puts down some major dunks. Whether that's, people don't expect him to go up, people are underestimating his power when he goes up, but he's dunking on two guys at the same time, and especially on Who's Next. I mean, they got some of the best defenders in the league, and we're seeing Latrell put down some poster dunks. I think he had 2 of them this game. So credit to Latrell, even though they didn't come away with a win. I thought he played a great game. Maybe one I didn't expect from this game because of Who's Next defense. I thought this was going to be a Quandale versus Angel in the post kind of game. Quandale was going to put up 20 shots if he had to, but it was kind of just run and gun for Gang Green, and they couldn't match with Who's Next up until that second half, because the first half Gang Green was in it by 1. It was a 1-point difference at halftime, and then I think this is how it went. I remember this is how it went. EJ got dunked on pretty badly. It was a nice one-handed dunk, and then the Gang Green started talking a little bit, and EJ turned to the crowd and said, "Yeah, let's hear him. I hear them." And then I think he came down, shot a 3, started chirping, got pretty loud in the gym, and then from there it was just an all-out shootout from EJ. He finished with 20 points. I think he went 4 for 6 from 3. He was hitting, turnaround threes, wasn't even looking as they were going in. He had an incredible second half, and I think that's what led to that kind of 16-point win. The third quarter was 27-12 for Who's Next, scoring the 27. Gang Green just couldn't match the run really, and Who's Next is known for their runs. Kevin Views had a good game, 16 points, 9 rebounds. He's kind of let back this season, you know, past All-Star, past MVP. We've kind of seen him take a step back, but when his team needs him to get a quick bucket, because Darwin wasn't scoring very well this game. He's usually the top guy or second guy to EJ. He shot 3 for 11. But what great players do is they make up for that, and he led the team in assists with 4. But as I was saying, Kevin had a great game to kind of step up to make up for that scoring that they were lacking in Darwin. And Angel, always a sleeper in this league. I mean, he's a quiet double-double every game. He had 19 points, 11 rebounds. Um, yeah, rebounds. Rebounds was huge for this game. And Gangrene, I think, is the smallest team out there. Quandell might be one of the bigger guys in the league, but it's only so much he can do out there. Who's next? 33 rebounds. Gangrene 18. Who's next does very well. They might not be getting the rebounds off the glass in the paint, but like Darwin, Jay Sean, Kevin, what they do very well is they get the rebound when it's bouncing out towards the 3 point. They know how to track the ball really well, which is kind of a skill that we've seen grow in basketball more recently with the increase of 3 point shooting going up every year. I mean, the ball is obviously going to bounce out further, and Darwin is probably the best player at this and is just great at tracking the ball when it's a missed shot and knowing where the ball is going to bounce. You know, guys can stand under the rim all they want, but when a big man's under the rim, they're not going to be able to grab a rebound that's bouncing out to the 3 point line, especially on this 8.5 foot hoop. It's going to bounce even further out because the ball is just coming down with a lot more speed. Yeah, so the rebounding was the key to this game, and that second half kind of streak EJ went on. Who's next shot 60%. Only so much you can do when a team's shooting 60% against you. I mean, yeah, I'll talk about, I'm not going to give who's next any tips, not that they need it in the playoff preview, but I'm a talk about, what it takes to beat them. And I think there are ways to beat them, and I'll bring them up in the playoff picture later. Yeah, second half kind of came away from Gangrene. It was an interesting first half. Like that first week matchup we saw weeks ago in week 1 against Who's Next Gangrene. Gangrene stuck in it in the first half, even the third quarter, but it let up in that fourth quarter. And Who's Next just kind of has to, they come off slow sometimes. And when they do, they're going to pick it up in the second half because they're not a team that kind of stays down. Yeah, we'll go into our last matchup. That one being Glock Boys Top Dogs. All right, Glock Boys needed to win this one to secure the second seed and get that bye week, and they did, aggressively. They won 102 to 83. Not the best defensive game from them, but in that second half they were just playing around. They come to 5-3. Top Dogs fall at 1-7. I mean, what more can be said about Amandi? 38 points, shooting 77%. Who I've been saying is my MVP all season. I think he's doing everything he can to get his team a win, even when he's got 2 other guys on the court with him, as we saw in week 5? They played 2-on-4 basically because Gio got hurt and Day got hurt. So he's out there every week. He's always lined up before the rest of the team at half before the games. He watches the pods. He scouts out the other teams. He wants to know like the records in the league so he can go out there and try his hardest to break them. I mean, that's the kind of attitude you see from somebody who thinks they're the MVP and maybe deserves the MVP. We'll see when the awards come out. I might know who my vote's going towards, but yeah, he finishes the season averaging 30, and the chirps he hears mostly, which kind of annoy me, is that he doesn't pass the ball. And if you go into the stats, guys, just look at the stats before you start chirping, because he has the 5th most assists in the entire league. And 2 of his teammates are also in the top 5 with him. So they're kind of taking away from his assists, whether they're assisting him, that's how that goes. But if he was to, take up Jay's role in a game he misses or Gio's role and get those assists as well, he can do that. He's fifth most, and he's 5 off of being the number 1 assist leader in the entire league. So let's stop saying this guy doesn't pass, because he's shooting 77%, scoring almost 40 points. You want him to pass? I mean, just so Gio can get to 40? I mean, sure. But Gio scored 36, 7 assists, shooting 81%, with Amandi scoring 38. So they don't really need to pass when they don't have to. They get these 20-point wins. Shout out Samaj, though, 17 points. He had a big game with a crazy putback dunk. Maybe we'll post that one. That was a crazy one. Hitting 5 threes. He had a little streak where I think he had hit 3 in a row. He looked great out there. For top dogs, I don't want to undermine Joey Niederberger's great game. He had 25 points, 17 rebounds. I think that's the most rebounds in a game this season. He's putting his body on the line every single play. The Glock boys can attest, because they wanted to dunk on him a lot, but he wasn't letting him up easy. He got dunked on a couple times, but Gio tried dunking on him 10 times. I think he dunked on him 3. So, I mean, shout out Joey. He's doing everything he can defensively for this team that is known for letting up the most points. I mean, each week you see them. I think they scored. I think Who's Next got 106 on them. Glock Boys 102. But Joey's doing everything he can defensively, especially with a smaller team. That LA and Leonard is a smaller but stronger guard. Jared Hansen's a small guard. Joey's a small shooting guard. So defensively, they kind of lean on Joey Niederberger, and 17 rebounds, 25 points. He's doing everything he can, so we got to shout out him. Jared Hansen, 25 points. Elaine Leonard, 22. Joey also adding some with some key 3-pointers, but obviously wasn't enough for Glock Boys. I don't think we saw a top dogs upset coming this way, especially not when only 4 guys show up. But yeah, I wanted to quickly give Joey Niederberger his flowers, give Amandi his flowers. That's kind of what can really only be said about this game when it's kind of just a big blowout like this. Maybe when we saw it coming, not the most interesting thing to talk about, but a very interesting thing to talk about, the playoffs. So we'll go into that right now. And yeah, a lot of good games. I think every good game or every matchup is a good game. This one I think is the closest, and that is the 4 versus 5 in OTM versus Gangrene. All right, and we'll look at. I have all the stats and things written down here, so bear with me. So week 4 was an 18-point OTM versus Gangrene win. So OTM won that one 8-18, and Shaq only scored 23. I didn't look too deeply, but that might be his lowest scoring game, and they still won by 18. So if you want to look at that and be like, Gangrene stands no chance, then I'll bring up week 8, where it was a 5-point OTM win. Quandale Bushcarter led the way, 23 points, and it wasn't a great shooting night for Gangrene, one of their worst shooting nights of the season, and they only lost by 5. And Shaq scored 34. So kind of 2 opposite games there. Shaq's low scoring game versus Shaq scoring 34. For that week 4 game, they lost by 18. Kwame Bell, their leading scorer, had 17 points, leading the way for Gangrene. And that week 8 matchup that they only lost by 5 points, Kwame didn't even play. So from an analysis kind of standpoint, I don't really know what to say. It's kind of Quandale, I think, was the difference in that week 8 matchup, because he was kind of quieter in that week 4 matchup. So I want to see a lot from him. I want to see him get OTM into foul trouble, because OTM in the paint is known for jumping a lot. Whether that's Nico or Markel, they're going to put a body on you, be aggressive. Whether they get a foul on them is up to the refs. They let some things go. We all know that. But Quandale versus Nico and Markel in that paint is going to be a crazy matchup. Nico versus Quandale is kind of the key matchup here, I think. I think Nico's got to lock in. He's one of the top shot blockers in the league, and that's going to be key against Quandale. I think Quandale just needs to get into the post and rather than trying to sneak by for the post. I want to see some hooks, some post shots, some fadeaways. I think he is a great post scorer, and I think he has a nice touch when he's in the mid range. And I think that's going to be the key to this game. So, Gang Green, if you're listening, make sure Quandale shows up, make sure he's ready. I want to see him score the most, and when he's not able to get something going in the post, pass it out to, Josh Monty, Kwame if he shows. Um, yeah, Josh Monty's going to have to be key to this game as well. He's going to have to lead vocally as he usually does. He's got to get his team in the right headspace. Don't let the game slip. I know OTM can kind of chirp, get in your heads, but it's the playoffs. Lock in. Forget about the refs, guys. It's week 9. It's going to be week 9 at that point. You know they're not going to call everything. You know you're not going to get every single call. But who wants all the calls anyway? That's boring. Come on, play hard. Gang Green, lock in. Um, I always root for the upset. Gang Green being 1-7, OTM being 4-4. It looks like a Gang Green upset. They've lost both matchups. So that is why I'm kind of leaning towards an OTM win, because Shaq is just unguardable to some point. Josh Monty does a good job up until he gets 2 or 3 fouls, and he kind of has to lay off a little bit, and Shaq takes a great advantage of that, and you can kind of see it clicking in his head, in that second half of the last week's Gang Green matchup versus OTM. Shaq kind of took his mismatches and ran away with it, and he was hitting some crazy shots. So if James, Fleming, Terrence, Nico, Markel, if those guys are all adding at least 8 each, this is going to look like an OTM win as long as they can back up Shaq just a little bit. But if OTM isn't having more than 3 guys over 10 points, I think this is going to be a Gang Green win. I'm telling you guys, Josh Monty, get up in Shaq's face, pressure him, make him take those wild shots. A bad shooting night's going to put you guys into the next round. It's simple as that. And Shaq, you got to talk to your team. You also got to look up. You take some deep threes, but when they close out on you, you could get a quick pass. Terrence is always cutting, and James is always ready to take a catch and shoot. So it's up to Shaq to kind of see those other guys. I know he wants that extra help, but he's got to be able to kind of create that space for them. And Josh Monty is so fast that it's kind of hard to create that space, because if he passes, Josh Monty's right there to help, and he's running around all the time, doesn't get gassed. But I definitely need to see some help for OTM to get them this win. Shaq's gonna have to score 30. I think that's what it is. He's gonna have to score 30, and the other guys are gonna have to help him out, because this is a much different Gang Green than it was in week 4 that they kind of had that big win against them. So I think Quandale needs to step up for Gang Green. He needs to lock in. OTM, Shaq needs to lock in, as he is. He's usually actually no. Shaq, keep doing your thing. The rest of OTM needs to lock in. They need to get their 8 buckets each. Get your buckets, guys, and you guys come away with this win. And both teams don't care about the refs. It's playoffs. You've not a single one of you have had a call changed by yelling at them. So just play. Just stay locked in. Don't get mentally shattered. In the third quarter when maybe Shaq hits some 2 ridiculous threes. He's gonna hit them. That's just what he does. So stay locked in, Quandale. Go to the post. Get those key matchups in the paint, and you guys could pull off this upset. That being said, as an analyzer, as the host, I have to pick. I'm gonna go. Damn. I'll go back to this one. This is hard. It's really hard. And I like guys on both teams, and I don't want to make anybody mad. So I'll come back to this one after we talk about the next one. And that next one's the 3 versus 6, and we got us top dogs. So the last matchup this team had, or these guys had, they only played once, I believe. It was a 9-point we got us win. For that Win, Jamari, Derek, Kubi, everybody played for We Got Us. And we know they've had some trouble getting some guys to show up. Jamari being there, Derek being there, Kubi being there is going to have to happen for them to beat this team because Sean Yard had 29 in this game. Shai had 27, even with all those other guys showing up. So if those guys are there to support Shai, I see We Got Us taking this one. If Allen, Jared, Sean Yard, Joey, both Joeys, if they show up, then it's going to be a closer one. But if they're only showing up with 4 guys, I think We Got Us taking this one by 15. I mean, it's hard when you're the bottom seed, kind of root for. As much as I love the upsets, I also got to be realistic here. And We Got Us just has too many weapons. And Jamari's, coming off of, I think, missing 3 weeks. He's going to be hungry. He's going to want to score. But don't let that take away from how good Shai is playing right now, and keep the Kubi growth going. We don't want to see them kind of diminish going into the next round where they're going to have to play at their top. So Jamari, come in, play smart, get back into it. Don't start firing on all cylinders right away. Kind of lead your way back into it. Get ready for that next round. I would kind of look into it, but can't overlook over top dogs, and especially in a team that has Sean Yard and Jared Hansen, 2 of the best 3-point shooters in Legacy history, I think, both winning. They're respectively winning 3-point competitions in the Massachusetts League already. Jared winning multiple in Rhode Island. So a 3-point game is something to look out for top dogs. That's how they stay in these games. That's how they only lose to teams by single digits. That's why this game that they played against was only a 9-point difference. Yeah, Sean Yard's gonna have to play out of his mind, and we're gonna need to see Derek kind of lock in for We Got Us. I think he's a key player defensively. Kubi, if Kubi plays half as well as he did this week, they still win. Kubi played amazing. Rebounds defensively. It's going to be a Kubi, Joey Niederberger kind of matchup in the paint, and that's when I see Kubi winning, as well as Joey's been playing. Kubi's just going to take a lot of rebounds from him. He's just, I think, longer and more explosive. I don't think Joey's going to be able to jump as high as him. So Kubi, I always tell you every week, I want to see a dunk. You can get a dunk this week, and you can be in the top 5. So get your plays going this week. Yeah. So Sean Yard's the key for top dogs. He's got to show up and play out his mind. For We Got Us, even if Jamari or Derek don't show up, I still think they can get this win as long as one of them do and Kubi does. And Shai's just been playing great all season, and he's kind of the difference maker here, as well as Derek and Jamari and Kubi. So yeah. So the winner of this game. Oh, so that being said, I'm picking We Got Us. If you haven't been able to tell, I think they win this one easily. That being said, winner of that goes on to play Glock Boys. And then the winner of the 4 and 5, which I'll go back to right now, has to play Who's Next. And I think I'm going to go with I think I'm gonna go with OTM. I think it's a safer pick. And I'm trying to be right. I'm gonna go back and see. I don't know how many times I've been wrong this season in my predictions. I think I've been right fairly a lot. I'll go count after this, but I want to be correct. So I think OTM just has an edge in Shaq, and I don't know if they have a defensive guy who can really slow him down. And if those guys get those 8 points I've been saying they need, then I see OTM winning this one. So OTM, don't let me down. Gang Green, I love the underdog mentality and the underdog storyline, but I think OTM has just enough to win this one. And then Who's Next? I'll talk about what people got to do to kind of take them down, and that's just stopping their fast breaks. I think intentional fouls on fast breaks will just crush their momentum. they're a team that builds a lot of momentum if they don't get off to a hot start. And that's if who's next doesn't get off to a hot start, and it's a 1 point game like we saw this week against Gangrene at half, then you just can't let them go on a run. Call a timeout if EJ hits 2 threes. Cool them down. You can't just let them rain them down on you. You got to stop their momentum, whether that's a foul, whether that's a taking charges. We don't see any charges in this league. You got to stop them somehow. Um, you know, stop one of their highlight dunks, get a charge call on you. That will just shatter the momentum. Call a timeout if one of them's getting hot, and intentional fouls. As cheesy as it sounds, I know it kind of ruins the game a little bit when you want to see highlights and see guys getting dunked on and throwing down cool dunks when you're taking an intentional fouls. But it's the playoffs, so you got to do what you got to do to win. The momentum is what who's next just thrives off of, and if you can stop that and pray for a bad shooting night from either EJ or Darwin, then that's how you get that win. So OTM, Gangrene, whoever's facing them next, take some notes, study the games, go back and watch the games. If you guys really care about this and want to win, you got to do what it takes to win. So yeah, for Glock boys, if it is we got us playing them, that those 2 games they've played against each other have been my favorite games to watch. It's the chemistry both of those teams have is great because guys from both teams are friends and they know each other. So I've been dying laughing on the sidelines listening to them chirp each other. So I hope this matchup happens just because that is one of my favorite matchups I've watched this season. So we got us Glock Boys playoffs game would be awesome. I think it'd be fun to watch. For that game, Kubi's gonna have to just lock down Amadi, and if that can go, then Derek's gonna have to pick up whoever, whether it's Gio or Leon, doing the secondary scoring. Derek's got to step up for that. We got us is definitely not out of this game though. I know it was kind of closer to 15, 20-point wins both times for Glock boys, but we got us is a very well-rounded team and they have a lot of depth. They have maybe the best starting four in Jamari, Derek, Kubi, and Shai. Besides who's next, can't. They have all stars. They're in their separate tier up here, but other than them, I think We Got Us has the best starting four in those guys I mentioned. And if they're all playing, keep them going. Maybe don't sub. Maybe get one sub in and out. Don't sub 2 guys at once because I need to see kind of them grow throughout the game, get hot, go on runs, and don't mess up that chemistry because it is playoffs. As we've seen in the past, teams will just stick to 4 guys and just go with it if that's how their team works. If they have 4 guys that are clearly above the rest in skill and hard work and kind of effort, those guys will play the whole game, and that's going to determine your game. And I think We Got Us can do that against Glock Boys. Keep Derek in the game, keep Kubi in the game. Even if they miss 4 shots, Derek goes on some streaks where he misses a lot of threes and kind of wanted to get subbed out. But if those guys stay locked in, they could upset Glock Boys. If Kubi is on his A game against Amandi, which Amandi averages 30. That's hard to do. He's scoring the most in the league. It's a very hard thing to do. So that's a big if. But stopping Amandi is the key to Glock Boys taking an L in that second round. But yeah, that's kind of the quarterfinals wrapped up there, at least the preview for it. So yeah, a lot of good games, a lot of good action about to come. I'm very excited, and I think the semifinals will be just as exciting, if not more. Thank you for bearing with me this week, guys. I know it was just me, so you had to just listen to me yap for 30 minutes, but I really do appreciate anyone who listens, and I love talking about it. I love when you guys get mad at me. I love when you guys, pick out things I said, and I got to go, oh, did I really say that? I really appreciate you guys for watching and hearing me all season. So shout out you guys this week. I usually shout out the boys who are with me, but shout out you guys watching. Shout out the players. Thank you guys for making this whole league possible. It's been such a fun season, and I can't wait for the playoffs. Yeah, I'm so excited, boys. I'll see y'all next week. I've been your host, Cade. Peace.